Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to My Story Matters. We had a little bit of a hiatus over the holidays, and we're very excited to be back. Tonight, I have on my dear friend, Brenda Geary, who I don't even know, Brenda, how many years ago it was when we met, quite a few years ago. I've been in LifeVantage since 2016, May of 2016. So I'm approaching 9 years. Brenda actually joined in August of 2011. So she has a good head start on me. But I want to introduce her because she is a phenomenal person. I don't know if you've ever met her before. If you have, you know exactly what I'm talking about. She just radiates and is always smiling every time I see her at an event. She always comes up to give me the biggest hug and just a lovely person. And her story is absolutely phenomenal. And I can't wait for her to share it because I have no doubt in my mind that her story is going to help a lot of people. But Brenda is actually a former corporate executive turned entrepreneur. She is certified in the Lisa Nichols Transformation Program as a trainer, a certified clinical hypnotist, a neurotransformational coach, speaker, and best-selling author. And after 2 decades as a successful human resources vice president in a Fortune 500 company, her world was turned upside down when she developed a number of autoimmune issues, challenges, as well as subsequently diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. As a result of overcoming her health challenges, Brenda has also become extremely passionate about sharing her story of recovery and educating and inspiring others on how to achieve and maintain optimal wellness. Brenda is married to the amazing Randy, and she has one son, Michael, that is the light of her life. Um, I know that this story is going to touch the hearts of many. I know quite a bit of her story, but I don't know all of it. So some of that actually, when you shared your bio with me, um, was very it's things that I didn't know, especially I was actually in a higher level position in human resources as well, and I know how amazingly stressful that field is. And anyways, I am excited for you to take over to share, and then feel free to let people know when you're going to share your screen and whatever pictures you have. But would just love to hear about your LifeVantage journey and everything that you've been through.
Yeah, well, I am I am really excited to be on tonight. Give me one second. Here we go. I'm really excited to be on this evening, and thank you, Kim, for inviting me. Yeah, I have. The reason I go up to you when we're at events is because you have inspired me so much. I just think about our stories, and for example, I went back and listened to the gentleman, Jared. Is he the individual that you had really, that you shared his story recently? As I was listening to his story, and I just think about the a commonality being that we have a lot of folks that were praying for a solution. And that really has touched me as well. And I know that that's a huge part of my story. So thanks everyone for joining us this evening. So I'll just share a little bit about my story, and then I think toward the end we'll answer, we'll take some questions. But so yeah, I was a high level VP of HR, and as Kim mentioned, very, very stressful environment. It was a huge, huge company. I won't say the name, but it was very, very, very highly competitive. You were always watching your back. It was actually an iconic company, right? However, you were always watching your back, right? Because of the competition, because of just how competitive it was. And so, I loved what I did. I will forever, ever, forever be grateful for the fact that I was able to achieve the level of success that I was able to achieve. I'm one of 5 kids. I'm an Air Force brat. I'm the only one in my family of five kids that went to college. And so that was a huge achievement for myself, right? And so I was passionate about human resources because I love training people. I love seeing people achieve the best that they can achieve. I'm actually also a McDonald's statistic because I was hired at McDonald's when I was 16 years old. And I went up through the ranks. And McDonald's, you guys, is where I got my passion for service. It's where I got my passion for customer service. It's also where I got my passion for just my work ethic, right? And so McDonald's, believe it or not, guys, McDonald's paid for working at McDonald's paid for my bachelor's degree. And it also paid for most of my master's degree. And so I will forever be grateful for my McDonald's journey. I think there's a lot to be said for individuals that are in the service industry. Anyways, so I was passionate about human resources. I went into a leadership training program, again, highly, highly competitive. I was, like when I grew up, when I was one of five kids living in a small town in Midwest, I never ever believed that I would be in this huge job working for this huge company that would take me to over 20 different countries, right? And that I would be supporting a $9 billion company. But that's what I was doing, right? But again, with that came a lot of stress. And so at the height of my career, literally when I was flying around the world, supporting my employees, I woke up one morning and I had hives, welts, rashes all over my body. Um, I was subsequently diagnosed with a condition just called, autoimmune urticaria. And guys, all that means is itching of an unknown source, right? But I never, ever, ever stopped itching, literally never stopped itching from June of 2004 until about September, October of 2011. I tell people, imagine being in a bathtub full of fire ants, right? Imagine never ending itching. And I think that that was really the start of the journey where, because I believe that when your immune system is compromised, and Kim, you know this, it just opens up the door to so many other things. And so I started off with that. And then I developed a number of other autoimmune challenges that were really, really debilitating. And it made it really hard for me to do my job because at the role that I was in, I was playing with the big boys, right? And it got to the point where I was taking a lot of sick days. It got to the point where I developed a lot of short-term memory challenges. So literally everything that I would say after it was out of my mouth, I would forget it. Um, my husband became my parrot. I remember, not being able to retain numbers when I would have conversations with leadership team. I couldn't remember conversations that I was having. And so finally, as a result of the health challenges, I ended up taking medical retirement. The health challenges, for me, and I'm not going to go into, again, as Kim said, we don't make claims that we treat, cure, prevent, or mitigate diseases, right? But the health challenges for me, the side effects were just really, really debilitating. I had chronic pain that never, ever, ever, ever stopped. I remember wearing my clothing inside out. Literally would wear my clothing inside out because seams just touching my body hurt. Um, Sitting on a bed hurt my body. Um, and so that was really, really tough. At my sickest, I was in bed 20 hours a day. I was on 24 different prescription medications. And you guys, I'll show a picture. I've got a bag here that just, it's kind of like just a representation of the meds that these are the meds I was on, right? And I keep that bag just so that I have a reminder for myself of how far I've come. Because I don't know how many of you guys can relate to this, but have you ever been sick and then you're no longer sick, but then you start forgetting what it felt like to be sick, right? Or you tend to forget what the struggle was back then because that's no longer where you are. For me, I don't ever want to take for granted where I'm at now. And so I do keep this as a reminder of where I was because guess what, guys? I'm no longer on any of these, right? I'm no longer on any of these. And for that, I'm really super grateful. But when I was in so much pain, and I had to take that medical retirement, and I was feeling shame. I was feeling guilt for having gotten so sick. And I think that, Kim, and I know Pam's on here and some other folks, where maybe you're in a corporate role and, it's really highly stressful. But for me, I was feeling guilty because I'm the one that got sick. How was it that those other executives didn't get sick, but I got sick? And so I was carrying guilt and shame for that. And so I remember when I took my medical retirement, guys, I looked at my doctor and I said, okay, what do we do now? What do we do now? Because I was in and out of hospitals, in and out of hospitals. I think I know that I probably spent over $300,000, you guys, out of pocket on a ton of different therapies trying to get my health back, right? I was on this journey to try to get my life back. And I just, gosh, and guys, one thing, because of my chemotherapy, I have chemo brain, so sometimes just kind of poof, I don't remember what I was talking about. But I just remember that I remember talking to my doctor and saying, okay, now what are we going to do? Because I had been going to the hospital nonstop, 2 and 3 doctor's appointments a week. And so when I took that medical retirement, I'm thinking, well, now we're going to be able to cure me. Now we're going to be able to do something to really find out what's wrong with me. And the doctor's answer to me was, now you go home. Now you come back and see me if your meds, if the meds become less effective, or if you're really in a lot of pain, come back and we'll see if we can give you another medication. That was the last thing that I was expecting to hear. Just the idea of now I'm supposed to go home, and basically I didn't have any quality of life. I tell people I was just existing. I wasn't really living. My husband and we couldn't make plans for anything because I was always in pain. I had chronic vertigo. I had chronic nausea. There are times where I'd be laying in bed and I wouldn't even want to move my head even this much, because if I moved my head just this much, the room would start spinning and I would just vomit. And even, for example, just going from the bed to the restroom, I knew I would try to put off going to the restroom because I knew that just me trying to get up to go to the restroom, that by the time I got to the restroom, that I would be spinning and I would vomit. And so I would do my business and I'd, just be there thinking, okay, I'm trying to get myself motivated, steel myself so that I could get back up and go back to bed. Okay. And so that was really, really rough. And so that was what I was living with. And I remember it was August of 2011. I would I would negotiate with God because every day there were different symptoms that were worse than others. I'm like, hey, God, if you make the itching less itching, I'll take all the pain. Or, hey, if I can have less itching, I'll take all the vertigo and all the nausea you want to give me, right? Just because each day there was just a different hodgepodge of symptoms that were tough to navigate, right? So I remember I was praying and I was just saying, and I remember your other guest said this. I was just praying that I just wanted God to send something into my life that would just lessen my symptoms. I just wanted something to be sent into my life that would just give me a better quality of life, right? Just lessen the symptoms. And literally, answer to prayer was 2 weeks later because my husband met a young man and they got to talking, and I call him my earth angel, blonde, blue-eyed surfer dude, right? Ryan Jackson. He'll forever be my earth angel because he had just him and my husband got to talking, and my husband's a retired police officer, so you can know that he can be very, very skeptical. Well, they were talking, and toward the end of the conversation, Ryan said to Randy, I think I have something that could possibly help your wife if you're willing to watch an ABC Primetime News investigative report. And literally, Ryan wrote the link to the ABC Primetime on a napkin. Randy put it in his pocket, and when he got home, he watched it, and then he literally dragged me out of bed, sat me on his lap, and we watched the ABC primetime together. And literally, that was the start of my Life Vantage journey. I was introduced to the flagship product, NRF2, Protandim NRF2. And when I watched that ABC primetime, um, this it was curious to me. I didn't know anything about oxidative stress. That was the first time I've ever heard of oxidative stress. I had actually spent $15,000 going to a holistic hospital in Mexico, $15,000 out of pocket. And when I went to that hospital in Mexico, um, it was a holistic hospital, right? And every evening they would have seminars where they would teach us about different things. And the reason I share that is this is when we were there, my health got a little bit better, right? But there I was getting daily IV infusions. Literally, we all had a nutritionist. I was having daily blood work done. So I was in a micro, it was like a little very controlled environment. But when I left there, my health went back down again very quickly because it wasn't the same environment. But there's one thing I learned there, guys, that when I watched the ABC primetime, it made so much sense to me. When we were at Sonavive, they taught us about antioxidants, and they made a big deal about people consuming antioxidants. But when I watched the ABC primetime, and in the ABC primetime, they talked about the 1-to-1 versus 1-to-1 million. You guys, that slapped me across the forehead, like literally understanding the 1-to-1 versus 1-to-1 million. And all I could think about to myself was, what if? What if this could help me? And I know that some of the folks that are watching this evening or may watch this in the future, maybe you've had a really tough health journey and you have spent a lot of money and people have brought you tons and tons and tons of things and you're thinking, not one more thing. Or maybe somebody invited you to this webinar this evening and you're thinking, ugh, not one more thing. But you know what went through my mind? What went through my mind was, what if? What if this is the thing that could help me? And then I thought to myself, I have nothing to lose and everything to gain because that 1-to-1 versus 1-to-1 million, that made a lot of sense to me. That was huge. And so that $15,000 that I spent going to Sonavive, which that was the price of admission because when I was watching the ABC primetime, I was ready for it. Does that make sense? And so that was powerful for me. So I started taking the Protandim NRF2. One thing that I was told when I was first starting to take it was, Brenda, give it time. I remember, and I can't think of her name right now, but a person who had a similar health journey to me, who was bedbound and a lot of pain, had called me. She was asked to call me. You know how we do third party, right? So she was asked to call me so that I could hear her story. So I could hear about how she had made her health recovery. And the biggest things that she said to me was, Brenda, give it time. And so I knew that I was going to give it time to do whatever needed to happen in my body. And at the time that I started taking it, I didn't know as much as I do now because, certainly it's been, many more years and we've learned a lot more, but I just trusted what she said because when she told me about her story and then she shared with me what had happened for her, that made all the difference to me. And I thought to myself, what if? And so I started taking the Protandim NRF2. And again, not making any claims. I'm simply saying that by lowering oxidative stress, by lowering inflammation, amazing things happen for me. That itching that had never stopped since 2004 stopped within 2 months. That chronic vertigo, that chronic nausea that I had, it stopped. That chronic pain went from a 10 on the 10 scale down to like a 2. And so a lot of the things that were happening, they didn't go away completely as far as like the pain and that type of thing, but it gave me back my quality of life. And so lowering oxidative stress, lowering that cellular damage was what my body needed in order for it to be able to get back, to do the things it needed to do, right? And so so that was August of 2011. All we had was the NRF2. I started off with one, and then it was recommended to me that I take 2 a day, one in the morning, one at night. So I did that. And I just kept taking it consistently. And I felt like I was getting my life back. I was so happy. I actually started, my husband and I, we became consultants. I started networking and just because I wanted to share what was happening for me with other people. And then 2 days before Thanksgiving, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I felt like I was punched in the gut because I had been sick for so long. And then all of a sudden, I was feeling like I was alive again, like I was living. And all of a sudden, I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I am a person of faith. And so after I processed and just kind of sat with that feeling of wow, I just was basically like thinking, God just has a bigger story for me to share. He has a bigger testimony for me. And so, and again, I'm not giving any medical advice whatsoever. Everybody has a personal decision to make. For me, I made a decision that I was going to go because of the cancer was in both breasts and it was in my lymph nodes. And so I made a decision that I was going to go through chemotherapy, radiation therapy, but that I was going to do a few other non-traditional therapies as well, like take an integrative approach, and that I was going to continue to take my Protandim NRF2. My oncologist was not supportive of that decision, but because of what I had seen, because of other individuals who I had talked with, again, I made a personal choice to take the product because you guys, my mom had ovarian cancer a couple different times, and she died at the age of 52. And when she died at the age of 52, she didn't have cancer, but she lived for almost 25 plus years after treatment with debilitating side effects from her chemo and from the radiation therapy. And so for me, because I knew what my mom had experienced, and when we were kids, we watched it. She lived with me toward the, like she lived with me for several years, and then she was living with me when she passed away, right? And I saw we were always in and out of the hospital, always in the hospital. And the reason we were always in and out of the hospital was because of her side effects. And so I said to myself, on the other side of chemotherapy, I don't want to have the side effects that so many individuals that go through chemotherapy and radiation have. So again, it was a personal choice for me. And you guys, anyone that's ever been on a journey with having to make a choice about chemo and radiation therapy, I tell people that whatever choice you make for your treatment is the right choice for you and to not second guess it. It's not about what somebody else would do, et cetera. It's like whatever choice you make is the right choice for you. So, anyways, I did that. I was super healthy during radiation. I mean, it sucked. Don't get me wrong. It felt like I was in a dark cave toward the end. I felt like I was in a dark cave, just barely holding on by my fingernails. Um, it was super painful at times. I was just holding on toward the very end, just because I was taking the shot that made me feel like I was inside my body, like my bones were tearing up. It literally made me feel like I was like the Hulk, when he makes that transition. That's how it felt like after I got this one shot that I was supposed to have. Hindsight, I wouldn't have done the shot, but I kind of, peer like sometimes you make fear-based decisions, and I think I let my oncologist convince me to do this shot that in hindsight I wouldn't have done. But I say all that to say that I remember being at the end of my chemotherapy, and my doctor was looking at my blood work, and she said to me, Brenda, your blood work looks like that of a person that's 8 to 10 months out of chemo. I had really healthy blood my entire journey. And I had three really tough chemotherapy agents that were really tough taken together. But that was 2012 was the year of therapy, and now it's 2025. I had I had my mammogram, ultrasound, all my testing done just toward the end of last year. And you guys, I'm super healthy and I'm active and I'm living life, right? And so that's my journey, right? And do I still have some challenges? Do I have chemo brain? Do I like it's really hard sometimes when I'm thinking. Thinking is hard for me sometimes, guys, because I try to recall words and I can't recall words sometimes. And then the more I try to think about it, the more like there's this white cloud, right? But I used to feel like, gosh, I would beat myself up about it. But you know what? I'm here today and I'm thriving. And I'm going to give myself grace for the journey, right? And so I want to show you guys a photo because sometimes when people talk to me or when I'm sharing my story with people, people see a vibrant, healthy person. And I'm grateful for that. But I want to show you guys what it looked like to be Brenda and why I say to folks, try it, give it a shot. You didn't get sick overnight. It's going to take time for you to get better, right? But here's what happened for me. So, this is me. I was in and out of the hospital all the time, in and out of the hospital all the time. I was in bed 20 hours a day. I had two dogs. And one of them, my dog, my boy Rory would stay, he would, like keep me company. Those were the meds I was on. And then I went through my chemotherapy, journey, my radiation journey. And I tell people this is what I was living. And if I hadn't said yes, I don't know where I would be today. I honestly don't believe I would be here because my doctor said that I was in such horrible shape. And then because I said yes, remember, I couldn't ever do anything. I was always in bed. But because I said yes, I now get to spend time with my hubby, my son, my bonus sons, my grandson. My husband loves to drive. I think he was a trucker in another lifetime. Going on trips with friends, speaking, sharing my story, jumping off of a really, really huge mountain and paragliding in Turkey. I don't believe I would have these experiences if I hadn't said yes and if I hadn't given myself time. And then, real quickly, I'll share this other photo with you because we're going to talk about the MB system, mind body system. When I was on all those medications, guys, I gained 107 pounds. I was on prednisone. I was on doxepin. I was on gabapentin. I was on venlafaxine, all these meds that when you read about the side effects, it says weight gain. So I went from being 130 pounds, 134 pounds to at my highest weight, I was 242 pounds. So imagine being that person that gained just a ton of weight during my health journey. And then to be able to, first of all, to be able to lose weight, to be able to lose weight, just started working with, I'd started working with Dr. Melody. Many of us that are on this webinar here love her, and she and I started working together to help me reduce weight. So I lost like 55 pounds working with her, and then I kind of got lazy and I got a little bit complacent. And then so when the MB system was coming out, she of course was bound by a non-disclosure agreement. But the only thing, when I knew what was coming, we knew it was weight management, something, she said, Brenda, you're going to love what's coming. She was, it's going to help you to accomplish the rest of your goals. And so um, yeah. And so on the mind body system, I was sharing with Kim before we started the webinar that I haven't lost a ton of weight, but the inches, I've lost a ton of inches. I've lost body fat. I've gained muscle. And I had pulled it up here earlier, but let me just see if I can find it here real quick. My cholesterol. Um, my cholesterol went from 191 to 168, and that was in 6 weeks because we had done labs. Dr. Melody and I decided to do labs so I would have a benchmark so I could see and measure not only what was going on the outside, but I could also measure what was going on the inside. And then my LDL went from 101 to 86 in 6 weeks. So, anyways, that kind of gives you guys a pretty good sense of my story.
That is an amazing story, and I'm right there with you. I think a lot of people that have joined LifeVantage have been on their knees praying for something, and lo and behold, it's presented to them, and that's exactly what happened to myself as well. And when you're sick and you feel like you're at a dead end nonstop, it's tough,
Yeah.
and doctor after doctor and being gaslit, and you know, for me, doctors just wanted to prescribe antidepressants and anti-anxiety when that wasn't the issue for me at all. So thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing your story. And it's amazing the transformation that you have made. And just obviously, we know being in this company as long as we have all the blessings that we've been able to see, and we'll continue to share people's stories so that, you know, people understand that this is beyond anything that I could have ever imagined, or you, or anybody in LifeVantage that gives this time.
Yeah.
You know, one of the best things that has ever happened to me is LifeVantage, but also on top of that is the very first person, now hundreds, if not thousands, that have come to you and said, this changed my life. You changed my life because you told me about LifeVantage and the products. And um, for those of you that are new in LifeVantage and on tonight, um, like Brenda said, give it time and share this like crazy into your network, because I'm telling you, it's a game changer, a life changer. And um, I know, I just like it's amazing. And I appreciate your time. I will open up for questions. I am gonna stop the recording because I do see some questions coming in. That way you can get a little bit more specific.
Yeah.
So feel free to unmute if you have a question for Brenda. But thank you again so very
You're
much for sharing your amazing story.
welcome. And I'll just say this real quick is, with the work that I do, like our stories are not for us, you guys. Our stories, we have a responsibility to share our stories because there's someone out there that needs to hear our stories. And I remember being at an event in San Antonio, and we were on the Riverwalk having this party, and I'm on the dance floor, and this woman walks up to me, and she's in tears, and she gives me a hug, and she goes, "Brenda, you don't know me, but because I heard your story, you changed my life." And those things happen all the time, right? And so again, don't be shy about sharing your story because, in the past where I would think it made me weak because of my memory challenges and those types of things, it's actually what makes me relatable to people, right? And so share your story because your story is not for you. It's for the person that's praying that needs to hear your story. Yeah.
I agree.
So what questions do we have?